Okay, this is side 2. Now we're going to be talking Granddad's impressions on people. The first one is FDR.
Great man, great president. A lot of people were unemployed, and he started a forestry project to put people to work. And a lot of the trees that we have today were planted by, not the Peace Corps, but whatever. But they were employed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he started the NRA, which was the National Relief Act, and it helped a lot of poor folks, and especially people out in the Dust Bowl, Oklahoma and Nebraska, and people that just didn't have anything.
Do you remember the WPA?
They had the WPA and they had the PWA.
Mm-hmm.
We always called it WPA, we piddled around. You know? That's what we always called it. We fiddled around. Well, they were made jobs.
What was your, I want to say, your view of the man at first, and then since he was in office for 12 years,
Yeah.
was it the same the whole time, that he did such a great job, or was there any time when you thought you should get a new president? Or
I was satisfied with Roosevelt, but he became very unpopular toward the last. By the way, I went to Warm Springs, and he had infantile paralysis.
Yeah.
And I saw his car. He had a Ford Roadster, and he had it rigged up. He couldn't move his feet.
Right.
But he had it rigged up to where he could drive it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's in a museum there in Warm Spring, Georgia. And, yeah, I liked Roosevelt. I saw the bed on which he died, and also the little room at Warm Springs. Yeah, it was like Harry Truman, you know. Harry Truman, Key West. Well, he liked Warm Springs, Georgia.
Right. How about Herbert Hoover?
Herbert Hoover's slogan was, "A chicken in every basket."
What does that mean?
Well, he was talking about how good times were coming and so forth and so on, but he was a nothing as a president. He was very unpopular. Of course, he was a Republican, and the Democrats had just gone out. You know, Roosevelt was a Democrat.
Yeah.
Hoover was a Republican.
So Hoover was relatively unpopular?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
What did you think of him? You didn't find him...
He didn't inspire me.
What about Albert Einstein? Did you hear much of him? And
oh, yeah.
What,
You know, his brain is being preserved, you know. They're selling little pieces of it to different scientists to find what made him tick, you know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's in a glass jar. It's up in Massachusetts.
I didn't know
And
that.
it's in formaldehyde.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it on TV.
Huh.
And I've never seen it actually, but now they're chipping away at it to find little pieces that...
What kind of news did you hear of Albert Einstein in the 30s? When what impressions are left on you when you hear the name Einstein?
No, everything was from a scientific point of view. And I think in mathematics too. We were talking about these hieroglyphics that you can't understand, you know. But I'm sure somebody can. You know, they considered him a great man, and I did too.
Okay. How about Huey Long? You remember him?
Of course. Yeah, the Huey Long Bridge is named after him. Well, he was strictly a politician.
Yeah. And what kind of news did you hear from him? Like, what do you remember when you were...
We heard that there was a lot of graft in Louisiana, and that he didn't hesitate to participate in graft. Whether it was true or not, who knows?
And since you're from the South, and he was a Southern governor,
Yep.
what?
Well, we didn't come much into it, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
We just figured he was a politician that was subject to the purse, P-U-R-S-E, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet you if you were from Louisiana, you were crazy about the man, I would just imagine.
Yeah. What did you think of him? Just a regular politician?
Yeah, that's what I didn't have much.
Mm-hmm. What about Charles Lindbergh?
Lindbergh turned me off during the war because he was more or less pro-Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Not a member of the Nazi party, but he was pro-German.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did later. He did an about-face, but everybody was soured on him.
Yeah.
Because his leanings were toward the Axis, not toward the Allies.
Huh.
But of course, he's mainly by the kidnapping of his son.
His son, yeah.
And you know, they're still not too sure though.
If they got the right guy.
Yeah, Bruno was executed for that.
Yeah.
But they're not really positive that he was a kidnapper. No.
What do you remember when he made his trip across the Atlantic and he came back?
I saw him.
Oh.
They made a tour in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And right in front of the Biltmore Hotel
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta, I saw Lindbergh.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also seen the Spirit of St. Louis, you know, it's in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, Smithsonian.
Yeah. Well, you wonder how that little old thing made it, really.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about Amelia Earhart?
Well, she was noted as one of the first women flyers.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, they claim, guys, they have searched and searched and searched the South Pacific for remnants of her plane, and they'll come up every now and then with a piece of something they think that might have been her plane.
Mm-hmm.
But there were so many planes shot down and lost in World War II that I don't think
Who's to know now? Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever find out anything.
Do you remember anything when her disappearance? Was it big news?
Oh yeah, that was headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Douglas MacArthur?
You talking about Dugout Doug?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a book on him. It's called American Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
Egotistical, very bombastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, MacArthur in the 19th century, there was I know his name just as well as I know yours, but it slipped me. It doesn't matter. But he made his record at West Point, this Confederate general.
Yeah.
It stood until the 20th century,
Mm-hmm.
and then his grade was surpassed by a 20th century general,
Douglas
MacArthur.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
But you know, MacArthur was a mama's boy.
Yeah.
She got a hotel room down there at West Point, and she didn't want to flammer about it, and the lights were supposed to go off at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and she'd watch that and be sure his light was out. But then MacArthur later fell in love with this Eurasian girl, and she was supposed to be a beautiful girl.
Mm-hmm.
But Mama didn't approve of her.
Did you ever come in contact with MacArthur? Did you ever meet him?
Never.
No.
Now, Mama said, Douglas, you got to get rid of this woman. She's no good, and she's no good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And MacArthur Douglas fought her and said, oh no. First time he was a mama's boy.
Yeah.
But you know, she gave him $10,000, and he gave it to his staff officer. And in the Waterman Park Hotel in Washington, D.C., this staff officer gave that $10,000 to her.
Mm-hmm.
Get lost.
Yeah.
And so she got lost. But it broke his heart.
Was he very popular or unpopular with the troops when you were in China?
They didn't like his action on Corregidor because he stayed way down. He never came topside but one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was only once. They called him Dugout Doug.
Mm-hmm.
He occupied a beautiful home in Hollandia in the Southern Pacific, in New Guinea,
Mm-hmm.
right off the coast.
Joseph Stalin, what did you hear of him before and during the war, and then after the war?
Well, of course, he was a communist,
Mm-hmm.
but the communists were so unpopular after the war, especially during the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
and he declared war on Japan about 3 days after the atom bomb.
Right.
But he sent his troops into Manchuria and took a lot of Manchuria.
Yeah.
And he became very unpopular on that score.
Mm-hmm.
And he was iron-bound, and the Iron Curtain, nobody could penetrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Was there much talk of him before the war? Because certainly he was a great, I wouldn't say great leader, but he was certainly in the news during and after the war.
He had more was said about his generals,
Mm-hmm.
like Zhukov and all,
Yeah.
than was ever said about Stalin. He was in the background, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But of course he was and he had, there's no doubt about it, he had a hand in the murder of the Tsar, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when the whole family was murdered. Oh, you know, that Tsar Alexander, he was a very weak man. Oh, yeah. And his son Nicholas, he had something like leukemia or something.
He was a hemophiliac.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. That's a form of leukemia, I think. I don't know.
How about Eisenhower?
Of course, Ike and Montgomery couldn't get along at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's neither here nor there. But I think Ike, as a president or as a...
first, during the war, as a general.
Well, as a general, I think he was all right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give him at least an 8.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble was, he would vacillate. He would listen to some of his other cohorts. I mean, his cohorts.
His staff, his fellow
his staff and all.
Yeah.
And but he was very on D-Day.
Yeah.
He was very adamant about the fact that we better go ahead even with this terrible storm coming up. You know, I will give him credit for that. And as a president, I'd say he was all right.
Mm-hmm.
He became in disfavor with quite a few people, but you'll never find a good president yet.
Right.
Except for Bill Clinton.
Winston Churchill.
I'd say Winnie was tops in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say he was tops. And the Labor Party didn't support him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was crushed when, after all he'd done for V for Victory, the Labor Party ate him up.
Yeah.
And he died a broken man because he was a born politician, and he had nothing to do when he was defeated as prime minister.
What kind of news did you? What did the media, the news at the time, how did they shape Winston Churchill?
On Churchill?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were all for him.
They were all for him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you think that was because of the war, or because he was a good man and he did good for the war, or was it just because this was a good guy during the war?
I think it was because of the war.
Okay.
Yep. I think it was because of the war.
How about Harry Truman?
Harry Truman was noted for the fact that he says the buck stops here.
The buck stops here.
And also of ditching MacArthur and the Korean War when he went across the Yalu River, and I was told not to.
Yep.
But he disobeyed the commander-in-chief, who was Truman. Whether you like Truman or not, he was the president, and he told MacArthur not to do that.
Yep.
Getting us involved in a war with China.
Right.
Boy, oh boy.
What about Al Capone?
Al Capone. Al Capone. There's an ignorant itinerant that came to this country and fell in love with the money and the power of money, and he ran Chicago. He ran Chicago, and
did you hear a lot about him in the newspaper?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Well, my father-in-law was invited to a down here on Star Island. Capone had a beautiful home down there, and he was invited to a dinner party at Capone's residence. But he didn't go. He didn't want to. You know, the photographers would take pictures of people that would come.
That would go in
party,
and out.
He didn't want a part of it. Terrible person.
Yeah.
Oh, St. Valentine's Massacre.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No. He's sitting down there in Miami, and Bugs Moran's men are getting
slaughtered,
getting killed. You know.
Yeah.
Ended up at Alcatraz.
Yep.
But you know the only way you could catch him? Tax evasion.
Tax evasion.
That's all. Right. I know. But O.J. beat the system.
What about, did you hear much about Bonnie and Clyde?
Oh, yeah. Bonnie and Clyde.
Considering it was in the South, and...
Yeah. Well, Bonnie and Clyde, due to... We didn't have TV back in those days.
Right.
But with TV and the motion pictures like they are, they've been eulogized as more or less heroes in a way.
Yeah.
Martyrs.
Martyrs.
Yeah.
What was the public opinion of them then? Of course, it was bad, but what
Well, I think I kind of think people like Bonnie and Clyde. That it was a shame they were ambushed and were killed like that, because they had a good thing going.
And the last one is Hitler.
Well, to me, Hitler is an enigma. Hitler got a little bit too big for his britches, and his genocide on the Jewish people was a terrible thing. And not only that, but he knew all about concentration camps and all that stuff. But all the SS and all, they pleaded ignorance, and but they all knew what was going on. But the amazing thing to me, over here, we didn't believe all that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
Now, how in the world we could be so blasé not to realize that these terrible things were going on in Germany, and Austria, and all of Europe.
Yeah.
Terrible.
What he was Times Man of the Year in 1937 or something.
Oh yeah. Well, of course the Olympics were held over there in Berlin. You know Marshall Wayne.
Yeah.
He was a gold medal winner, and Jesse Owens.
Yep.
But you know, Hitler wouldn't shake hands with Jesse Owens.
What was the American perception before the war of Hitler? Like simply just not to get involved and let him do his own thing, or was it? Did it sound serious?
It was that we couldn't believe it. I mean, hey, there's all this stuff going on. Oh, no, it can't be going on in this modern world.
Mm-hmm.
Gee whiz, they talking about mass murder and all. No way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were very, very lackadaisical about that.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't believe it. And in fact, they were, we had motion pictures, but the news would come on once a week in the motion picture theater. And we had no TV.
Mm-hmm.
And communication was very poor for that day and age.
Do you,
I certainly don't condone Adolf Hitler.
do you think if there was no Hitler, there wouldn't have been a war, or do you think it would have been just some other man?
Who knows? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. But the fact is, there was a Hitler, and it was a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible thing.